Hey everybody, welcome into First Base, episode 7. We're here, we're chilling on my couch, we're gonna have a good time. One of the biggest things that you guys tend to ask me about whenever I put out little questionnaires on my social media with different stories of things that I've dealt with in my career, and I also know from having friends that are women in the business, that these are things that aren't super uncommon. A lot of us deal with some of these things that you guys would probably think are crazy, but to us, it's part of the job and part of what we do, and it comes with the territory. So I thought it would be fun to tell you guys some of those stories before we get into that. Of course, I'm going to start with a story from my week, and I've got a good one for us to start with this week. And it happened this weekend. It is my best friend Cher's birthday, actually today, so shout out, happy birthday, Sherry Joe. Little Sherry Cherry. She's honestly more like a sister to me than really a best friend. We've lived together for years. We've been friends for years now, and we've been through a lot together. Really, our entire 20s have been the two of us, so she is like my partner in crime and literally like family to me. So happy birthday to Sherry Joe. But we were out yesterday for her birthday to go to brunch. We have a great little brunch. Fun little time, just a girls' brunch, had some drinks, had some good food, all of that stuff. And after that, we decided to stop at a couple different bars and get drinks here and there to celebrate Sherry Joe's birthday. We ended up going to Rock Bar, which is one of the only bars, ironically, within the Scottsdale, Phoenix area that has a rooftop. And whoever works in like planning in Scottsdale and creating businesses, create more rooftops. Unless there's some reason about the heat, well, I don't know why we don't have more rooftops. We should really have more rooftop bars. We talk about it all the time. It's missing in this area, but Rock Bar has a rooftop. We walk up to the rooftop, and here we go. Here's the gang. We walk upstairs. We sit down in a booth. We grab a drink at the upstairs bar, and this guy turns around to me, and he says, "Wow, what a dress." That's what he said. And I was like, "Thank you." And Sophie could tell immediately that like he was going to be kind of a creeper and a little like weird and annoying. And I thought she caught on to it like quickly. She could tell that I was very like annoyed. He was standing there, not that you have to ask me a million questions, but like literally he was just talking about himself. And I really struggled to like get out of conversations, or I guess like force myself ways to get out. I try to just eventually like back off, but sometimes it really doesn't work well for me. And this was one of those instances. He's telling me about how he works in commercial real estate. He's like, "I made $596,000 on 3% of escrow," and like going into all of this stuff. And I'm just like sitting there listening about all of this. I'm like, wow. Like, yeah, so interesting. But in my head, I'm like, I'm not that interested, sir. Like, I'm really just trying to be here for my friend's birthday and hang out, whatever. But he would like not leave me alone. So Sophie comes up then and kind of is giving him like, she was kind of being a little bit of like a tough cookie to him, trying to get him to leave us alone. She's like, "We're here for our friend's birthday. Like, you're kind of talking our ears off, whatever." And then he, though, would not get the hint, even when she was being honest. And he still kept standing there talking. But it was kind of great because I said, Sophie was like a puppeteer. His name, we'll call him Jared. She's like, "Jared, go get us 2 beers. Jared, go up there. Like, if we're going to listen to you talk about real estate, we need some drinks." Like, Jared, she would just get him to do things, and it was like no problem. He literally would just go up to the bar and do it without question, without anything. So we'd go do it. So that would be like our moments of reprieve. He'd go up to the bar, and then we're like, okay, and we'd all sit and talk. Well, then he comes over to our table and gets involved with the whole table. And he's telling us about how he's a 3rd generation Arizona, and his dad is like an agricultural farmer. And he's telling us about all these people he knows in Arizona. His dad won like a championship with ASU or something like that. And it was just hilarious because all of us are just like sitting there, and he's just going and going and going. We're all just like I don't know how this man couldn't tell. All of our faces were just like, and then we would play along though every now and then. We'd be like, "Oh, tell us more," so that he would think that we were super interested. But he was just literally talking all of our ears off, and he wouldn't stop with that. He was a 3rd generation Arizona, and that was like the thing he kept saying over and over. So then he asks me for my number eventually, and he's like, "Can I take you out?" He was so fascinated with the fact that I'm also a woman that works in sports and gambling. Like, he literally kept saying that he didn't ask me one thing about it or like ask me anything about myself except for that. And then he kept going on, "That's the hottest thing I've ever heard of. that's just like the coolest thing I've ever heard of. I've never heard of a woman that gambles, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, dude, like, are you going to ask me about it? Or are we just going to like go on and on about how interested you are in the fact that I do this for a living? But he was just a little bit of an oddball. He asked for my number, and I'm a little like, God, I hope I don't come off mean for saying this, but I didn't know what to do. And I really struggle with like trying to tell people no, or that I'm like uncomfortable. So instead I just gave him a wrong number by 1 digit. It wasn't my exact phone number. I just know that I didn't think him and I were going to be a click. Like, we weren't a fit. He was a nice guy, but like, it just wasn't going to be it. Eventually, Sophie basically has to tell him, hey, we're really here with our friends. You gotta go. Like, it's getting to be way too much. And he finally, his friends had left him at this point too, by the way. So his friends had already left the bar, and he's just still standing there talking to me, whatever. He leaves finally, thank goodness. And by the time we leave, I go downstairs. We're leaving the bar, and the bouncer goes to me, you must be the girl. And I like kind of look at him very confused, and he goes, the girl in the red dress. And I was like, oh, maybe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, there was this guy that was apparently sitting upstairs, and he came down here when he was leaving, and he told me to tell you that you've got to go on a date with him because he really wants to take you out and to talk him up a little bit because he needed to make sure that like a date with you was going to happen. I'm just like in my head, like, what? Why do these weird things always happen to me? Like, I'm like, why is he telling this bouncer to like tell me that we should go on a date? Like, I don't even know why that happened. It was very odd, very weird. Anyway, went home, but it was an interesting interaction with the man, and I did give him a fake number by a digit, and I do slightly feel bad, but I'm so awkward, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings by saying no, so I didn't know what to do. And that's a story from my weekend with Jared, good old Jared. All right, time for the juicy gossip, the piping hot tea, the juicy gossip and the piping hot tea that I've got about what it's like to be a woman in the sports industry. And I'm going to fill this time with a bunch of good stories for you guys. I want to explain that being woman in the industry, of course, has a lot of difficulties to it. Of course, it's different being in a male-dominated field. It's something that really only I think a lot of women that work in a space like that know what the actual ins and outs of that is like. And I thought I would start with some good stories, though, about how weird it is to be in TV and to realize how attached to you some people get. I'll start with that. So one thing I didn't realize when I got my first job in Nebraska in local television was how connected the community was going to feel to me. And part of that reason is because when you're working in local TV for a small town or a small area, they're watching you on their televisions every single night. And you're basically, they're inviting you into their home, as they say, inviting you into their living room. And they really start to feel like they know you as a person, your ins and outs. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize on that end is you're only getting a glimpse of what that person's doing on television. You're not really seeing who they are and their whole personality and all of that. But a lot of men, this is a common thing for women, I think, in the sports media space, or really I should say in the media or television space in general, whether that's digital or in traditional television broadcast. Something that we deal with are interesting viewers or people that become interested in you online or whatever that may be. And sometimes these things with these people go a lot further than people realize, and it's pretty much just a normal occurrence. So a prime example of one of these stories that I actually have a couple of good ones from when I worked in Nebraska, but we'll start with the biggest one to start off, was my stalker story that I have. So I was living in Nebraska, Kearney, Nebraska at the time, working for the local television station, and most of the time I reported sports on our Fox affiliate station every night as the anchor, and that covered the entire state. So that show was going out to the entire state of Nebraska. I would receive viewer emails pretty much on a daily basis, but most of the time they're nothing alarming or concerning. But there was one that came across my way of a guy that was expressing a lot of admiration to me. We'll say that via email, just about how beautiful he thought I was. He loved watching me every night, giving me a lot of compliments, a lot of nice feedback, which was a common thing. Like, that's a lot of the emails that you would get. I didn't think that too much into it. Most of the time I would just respond back with very simple thank yous and that type of thing, because it is most of the time, people don't know this too, required if people aren't being creepy or weird to you. Your station prefers that you interact with your audience and the community. So I did what I was supposed to do with a kind response back. And these emails started coming in every single night from him. Starting out with just, continued admiration type of emails about how interesting he thought I was and what I was doing and that type of stuff. And then these emails started to get weirder. They went from just admiration emails to him telling me stories about like his day-to-day basically. And it would be like in-depth stories about how he was married. He had 3 children and he was a chancellor at a college within the state. So he had a relatively, I guess you could say, big job or a public figure type of career that he worked in. And he would tell me that he thought and still, I don't even know if this part of the story is true or not. Maybe it was. He told me that his wife was a high school teacher and that he had suspicion and thoughts that his wife was sleeping with one of her students. And he would send me these like very lengthy emails about all of it and like what he thinks he caught and all of this stuff. And it started getting like so weird to me. I was like, I don't like really know what I'm supposed to do with these. Like I would block sender and then he'd create another email account and start doing the same thing. Eventually I bring it into my news director because I wanted to tell him about this guy and like warn him like, hey, this guy's kind of creeping me out a little bit. And a lot of these emails are getting really extreme. My news director obviously took it into consideration and was like, we'll make sure like hopefully at certain events you're not alone and we don't have to deal with this guy. But I just wanted to make him aware of what was going on. Eventually, the emails then went from just these stories to attached photos of him that were extremely inappropriate.
Whoa!
And I was like, oh wow, like things are getting more escalated. Very inappropriate photos that I did not want to be receiving on my end and seeing. And I would continue to block. About a month and a half had gone by at that point. And I had to go cover state track in Omaha, Nebraska. And I loved state track. It was such a fun time in Nebraska. High school state track is really fun. They're a state that's like very known for the track and field space. And I also, people don't know this, I love track and field. I think it's such an interesting sport to cover and to watch. I love that the Olympics is coming up this summer for that reason. But back to the story. Track and field. All of a sudden, I'm filming a race and I hear Taylor, and I look and it is him. And he was there at state track in Omaha and he was chasing me down. And I got so freaked out. Thankfully, I had another coworker there and he knew what was going on. And he got me into the media room and basically watched to make sure this guy was leaving because he stood outside the media room and was waiting for me to come out. And my coworker, the best, shout out to him still because we are still really close to. He was like a big brother to me out there. He watched out for me and made sure that guy was not going to be creepy to me that entire day. Thankfully, he eventually left and I didn't really have to deal with it. But by that point, I was starting to get a little bit more creeped out because of the proximity of where we were at and the emails I was still receiving, how things were going. Next thing I knew, he added me on all my social media, on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere he could find me, he would add me. I would block him. He'd create new accounts. He started following my whole family. He started following my friends. He was reaching out to them. And it was starting to get to the point where I was like, this guy is like obsessed with me. He got my phone number. He was texting. He was calling. It was just getting extreme. One night I come home from the TV station. Our TV station was in like the middle of nowhere in Carmel, like way out in a field because we had all the satellites and everything around us. And you need space for television stations. The area I lived in was not a very big town, and it probably would have been very easy to figure out where I lived. Either through the internet or through things that I posted online, you'd be able to figure out which apartment complex I probably lived in within that city because, again, it wasn't a very big town. And I showed up to my apartment, and he was in his car. He was standing outside his car sitting at my apartment complex one night when I got home. And I immediately freaked out, got back in my car, drove back to the station, told my news director what was going on because I was very freaked out. And at that point, I ended up getting a restraining order against him. And for most people, I feel like they hear a story like that and they're like, oh my gosh, that is so crazy. You had a stalker, you had to get a restraining order, all that stuff. For women in the media space, I feel like this isn't something that's super uncommon. I have lots of friends within the media space that are females that have also had stalkers and dealt with similar situations of men following them or being creepy or sending them inappropriate things. It's honestly fairly common, which is terrible that I even have to say that. But that's just an example of people getting a little too close for comfort when you put yourself out there, whether it's online or within a media space like I have and other people do. I feel like things like that, unfortunately, kind of come with the territory. So there's a great story that I have from when I was in Nebraska to give you guys an example of some things I had to deal with that were a little weird. Was this one man that would always make me jewelry. So this guy would come to the TV station all the time. It started with, of course, admiration emails, same type of thing. But then he would come to the studio. He would drop off at our front desk jewelry that he made for me for the week. And he'd write a note asking that he'd hope he see me wear it on air that week, because he could know that he helped like make my outfit beautiful for the week and things like that, which was crazy to me too. Different jewelry every week from my jewelry maker man there in Nebraska. He was plowing the fields, and then in his off time, he was making jewelry for me. So that was what a time. He never got really creepy though. He just sent in the jewelry and always wanted me to wear it like on air. So that was another interesting story of some weird things you deal with viewers or people that become like very interested in you when you put yourself out there within this career space. I want to jump into a little bit about stories that I dealt with men in my industry and how that's worked out for me. And I guess in a way, something that you become slightly accustomed to that we unfortunately shouldn't have to become accustomed to as women within the media or sports media space. For example, working at my first job, I experienced my first moment of true sexual harassment in the workplace at the ripe old age of 22 years old. I should say when I first started working in Nebraska, I was the only female within our sports department. I'm a little, even telling this story makes me a little like nervous because I don't want people I shouldn't feel like this, but I don't want people to think I'm like asking for pity or anything like that. I'm just expressing like experiences I went through as a woman in the space in this field. I again, 22, moving away from home, starting this job in the middle of nowhere, not knowing anybody. And I worked in a sports department with 3 men at my television station. And I dealt with one of the men in my sports department station being just slightly creepy to me a lot. First starting out with the fact that when I got there, he decided that I was going to have to spend a week with him, just the 2 of us, and shadow him, which I didn't think was that weird at first, but then hearing from other females that worked at the TV station that he was kind of bragging about hiring me because I was young. He thought I was pretty, and I was going to spend this week with him, I guess, learning the ropes. He didn't make like the men ever do that. It was just me that had to do that. And then there were a couple of other instances that I found weird when we all went out as a group my very first time with the TV station. Yeah, he was married. And we got to the bar, he came in, we were all friendly, it was whatever, and there were rumblings that his wife was going to be coming to meet all of us out, and as soon as she got there, she wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't introduce herself to me, and I was like so confused. I'm like, did I do something I don't even know? And just again, I guess hearing through people in the grapevine at the television station, his wife was not super excited that I was going to be working there within the sports department. But immediately I felt like I was being like prejudged, I guess, and felt like I almost only got the job slightly because of what I looked like, and not necessarily because of like my intelligence or my sports knowledge or personality that I could bring to the table at the sports team for the station, which was a hard pill to like swallow, working in a male-dominated space and knowing that there are pros and cons to being in a space where your looks are part of the job, I guess, in a way. It can benefit you in certain ways, but in other ways it can lead to times like this where I felt like I was just being myself, but then yet getting judged in a space for just being myself or having men be creepy to me just because of that. But it got a little weirder too. He would start to send me like winky face text messages or like, are you up text messages at like 2 or 3 in the morning on weekends. And then I was just kind of like getting into a weird space of I wouldn't know what to do because he was also my coworker, and I felt really nervous to say anything to anybody that I worked with. I didn't want to get in trouble or shunned at work. I didn't want other people to know because I didn't want to put myself in an awkward space or the coworker. It was a really rough time for me, honestly. I became really depressed because of the situation there. I would be so miserable about going into work because a lot of that would translate over if I wouldn't respond to a text. I felt like I would get worse assignments in the sports department, or something would happen and I would never be admitted help. I just got treated a lot harsher. I felt like than the rest of the sports team a lot of the time. And I felt like it would go back to the fact of because I wouldn't know how to react to a lot of this stuff that was happening outside of the workspace. I, at one point, eventually got pretty depressed about the situation, and I was really nervous to tell anybody about it, but I went to my parents. I explained to them kind of what was going on, and my dad basically was like, that's sexual harassment. I don't want you working there anymore. Maybe we should get out of there. And eventually I did go to my news director. I told him I wanted to leave my contract after a year and a half. And at first he was like, you still have 6 months left on your contract. You have to fulfill that. I didn't tell him what was going on at that point about what was going on with the coworker. Eventually I had to get to the point where I had to tell the news director what was going on because the company wasn't going to allow me out of my contract early. So I ended up going to him saying that I was like, I don't want this to ruin his job or life or make it a thing, but yeah, this has kind of happened. And then quickly after that, they let me out of my contract because I had all of the screenshots of messages and things like that. To make a long story short, things like that happen in my type of workspace all the time. Women have been through much worse than me, I'm sure, with things like 100% with things like that. But it is something that you see on a scale. The sexual harassment, the male domination within the industry is a thing that you see often. I'm not even telling the story for like pity or wanting anybody to whatever. I'm just explaining to you guys what women within the media space go through a lot. And it kind of just becomes the norm. It's something that I dealt with at a really early stage in my career. And I've never even spoke about it really to anybody besides close friends and family until this moment. It's just something that happened. And you deal with men in the industry that have power over you, thinking that because they have that power, they can get away with certain things and nothing will ever be said. Fortunately for me, I was at least able to get out of that job at that time, which put me in a much better headspace. And I did have to go move back in at home with my parents at that time and restart almost in a way, but that was okay. I needed to do what I needed to do for my own mental health at that period. And it's just kind of sad to me that it's just part of the industry and part of a lot of things that women deal with, and nobody really bats an eye. And he still works at that TV station too, and so it is what it is. I really hope that nobody else experiences things like that, or that he's ever done that to another woman. I did learn after the fact, though, other women that had worked at my station in the past that I had become friends with that worked there before me reached out to me when I left that job, asking why I was leaving, and I was really honest with them, and it was funny. All of them had not exact similar stories, but things that also made them very uncomfortable from the same coworker. So it's just interesting that these patterns tend to just keep falling into place, and necessarily nobody really does anything about it. It's just a perpetuated cycle, unfortunately. So with all of the different things that being in media encompasses, whether that's from men within the actual space itself, or things that I've dealt with from viewers in the space, having a digital presence means something as well, and you have an audience in that space. And there can be some crazy things that go down in the DMs, or that have happened to me online. So besides people, of course, wanting feet pics in the DMs, or telling you stunning, or guys that are hating on me for my sports pics or loving them, or whatever the case may be, there's always, of course, even the one-off crazier things that happen online. Sometimes I will get emails, actually a lot of times I get a lot of emails for different collaborations to work with certain brands or do different things, which is really fun. And sometimes you get these awesome opportunities to do these really cool things. But with that, obviously my email is out there, and I get a bunch of emails throughout the days of different things to look through and see if there are opportunities I'm interested in or things I don't want to do. One happened to come across the way at one point that was a brand, and it was like a shoe deal. They were offering me 10 pairs of different shoes and $1,000 to do this video. And it was going to be like a YouTube try-on haul of all these different shoes. And I was like, ooh, this is really cool. And the shoes looked really cute. It was a bunch of like cute girly shoes. And I was like, I'll do something like this, like free shoes. Plus I get paid for it and I get to do like some content with it. Right up my alley. No problem. I am waiting for these shoes to get in and I'm super excited because they already sent me the $1,000 to this media company did. And I was like, okay, I already got the money. So I know this is legit. Just waiting for this box of shoes to come. The day arrives, the big box of shoes shows up to the door and it's just in a plain box. I get inside, I go grab the knife, I rip it open, and I'm so excited to get these shoes out and try all of them on. I'm like, I cannot wait for these babies. I pull them out and they're all in separate boxes and they were in these plain purple boxes. I pull it out and I open up the top of the box and I pull out a clear stripper heel that is literally this freaking big. And I look at it and I'm like, huh? And I'm just like, wait, what is this about? Like, this has got to be a mistake. Grab out the next box. I open it. Leather thigh-high going all the way up to the thigh. Boots that crisscross up the whole inside of the thigh with heels this big. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I'm like, what are these shoes? This is not the shoes we agreed upon in the shoe try-on email. And I'm like, what is going on? I open up the next box. Now we've got red stripper heels that are this big. I open up the next box. Clear heels with the white bottom that are like this big. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I just got sent 10 pairs of stripper heels. I immediately am like, what is going on? I go and get Cher, my best friend. I'm like, Cher, the shoes came and I'm like, this has to be a mistake. Like, what is this about? She is the best cyber sleuther. She gets out her laptop and we are seeing this box and like where it came from. And she Googles this store and she's like, wait, Taylor, this is a one-off store in the middle of California, like some exotic dancer, like shoe store. And she goes, this brand would not be doing a collaboration with somebody. And also, why would they, if they were, they're not freaking reaching out to me. Why would they be reaching out to me? It made no sense. So her and I are like, we're going to call this store. So we call this store up in California and I'm like, hi, I just got this order of 10 shoes from your guys' store. We're looking on your website. There are a lot of shoes. And also to throw in, the shoes were not cheap. They're like all like $200 or more per pair. So it's not like these were cheap shoes. And I'm like, I don't know why I got these, if this is a mistake or whatever, but these shoes came. I thought I was supposed to do this brand collaboration. I'm assuming it's not with you guys. I don't know what happened. And I was like, did somebody buy these? I started thinking of every way that how would I have gotten these shoes? And she's like, well, I can't tell you who bought them, but there's a PayPal account linked with that shoe order that we have. Because she's like, I do have that order number because I had like, there was something in the box with it. And she's like, there's a PayPal account attached to it. I'll tell you what the PayPal account is. She tells me the PayPal account email address and the name that was attached to it. This was not a media company that reached out to do a shoe brand deal. This was a creepy man that had a foot fetish that followed me for years, and he faked like he was a media company, sent me the $1,000 and got me those shoes and sent them to my house and wanted me to basically do this try-on haul of the shoes essentially for him. Like the video was going to be sent to him and he was basically going to be using that video for himself. Quickly realized this was not a brand deal. This was not a shoe deal. This was a creepy man. Your girl went off. I got that man's email from the PayPal, found out who he was, and emailed him. And I was like, this is BS, dude. I am not doing some private shoe haul for you to admire my feet and all of these weird stripper heels. Like, this is the weirdest thing ever. And I went off. And I was like, I will send you the money back. I don't want the shoes, though. And I was like, I'm not shipping all of this back. I'm not paying for that. He emails me back, admits to the whole thing, and says, I did want to see you in the shoes. That it was me. I ended up figuring out this guy's whole little ploy. And he tells me, you can do whatever you want with the shoes. So I actually took them all and I took them to Buffalo Exchange and they took all of the shoes and paid me for them. So I made money off the shoes. And then he also said I could keep the $1,000 because of what he did and for lying to me. So I kept the $1,000, never sent him any pictures in the shoes. And I got 10 pairs of stripper shoes sent to my door. So that's how that story went and how weird and creepy people online can be because, again, they think they know you, they're interested in you or weird things, and they'll come up with any way to try to do crazy or creepy stuff like that. So that was a very interesting experience I had with somebody online. I've had people that will try to send you pictures of yourself that they want like autographed, which don't ever do that. People in television know it's a big no-no because a lot of people too will try to steal your signature and like put it on checks and stuff like that. So big identity theft type of thing. So never do that. But women get offered that a lot. People send you pictures of yourself. They want you to autograph them or send them like special notes back. People want to buy your socks. People want to buy a lot of your clothes. People want to do a lot of weird, interesting things and little quirks that they have. You find out a lot about those digitally online. A lot of weirdos in this world that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's, again, part of the territory of what it comes with. And while we're talking about the digital space and social media, I thought it'd be fun for us to dive deep down into my DMs and go through a couple of these so you guys can see what I deal with on a daily basis. Now, majority of these are just things like, oh, you're stunning, oh, you're pretty, things like that, which we'll go like through some of those. We've got divine, like this is basic, divine, so radiant. And a lot of guys, they're talking to themselves here in the messages. They just, you know, they keep shooting the shot for a chance that I'm gonna respond at some point. Stunning, adorable. These are very basic DMs that we get. Here's an example of sometimes when the men go overboard with the compliments. We have this one. You have to be the sexiest person on the planet. You cover sports and you're a mega babe. That's an unreal combo. Fire heart eyes. Also, when you guys ask, love your dress, where'd you get it? Are you guys planning to buy it for yourselves? Like, I just would love to know from these men, like, why do you guys even care where I got the clothes? We all know you don't really care where I got the freaking clothes. Just own up to it. Wow, where's that dress from? Gorgeous. Like, are you going out and buying it? Are you going to try it on and send me a pic back telling me you love the wreck? Like, I need to know why you're asking where the clothes are from. I also love the ones about you guys always will tell me what's my color all the time. And I need to know, are you guys like color analysts? You assess colors for a living on women? It's always like, red is your color. You're beautiful. Pink is it. Reminds me of Barbie. Like, there's always something. Blue makes your eyes pop, Taylor. Those are the three I feel like I mostly get, the red, pink, blue a lot. But like, it's always like those three colors specifically. Wow, divine and red. Red looks sultry and sexy. There's always there's something about colors. You guys love with the freaking color. Lady in red. Just saw that as I was scrolling down. My favorite. Then I get some messages from you guys that are super kind. Like this one that I got on Twitter is so sweet. It says, Taylor, don't need anything from you and have nothing to pitch you. Just wanted to say you are damn good at what you're doing. And I love the authenticity that comes through and everything about you that you put out. Truly glad to see your strength and your professionalism shining, and I will continue rooting for you. Like stuff like that, so kind. And it makes me like want to continue doing exactly what I do. So I love when I get nice messages like that. Then there are, of course, the other ones that are just the unsolicited pictures and selfies I get. Those are top notch, honestly, most of the time. They range from selfies of you guys like laying in your bed with triple chins to pictures of body parts I don't care for to see from you guys, to dog pictures, which those ones every now and then I don't mind. And with that comes a story about a man who feels that he always needs to be showing off when he messages me. A few years ago, I get this Snapchat message from this person. It keeps coming through and like, it's like this gigantic long paragraph. Also for the record, I like never use Snapchat. So I was like, who is this and how did they even get my Snapchat username? Sending me these paragraph long messages saying like, hi, my name's so-and-so. This is what I do for a living, yada, yada, yada. But I was at the mall, I remember, with my friend, and we were shopping, and this message kept coming through from this person, and I would just swipe past it and not read it. Eventually, when it came through like the sixth time, I sat down, I read the message. And this guy is telling me that he is a famous rapper. I am like reading these messages, and I'm like, there is no way that this is like real. Giving me like kind of his life story and telling me the songs that he sings, like acting like you might know my songs such and such and such and such. And I'm like, of course I know those songs. Everybody in the English speaking world knows those songs. So yes, I know those songs, but I'm like, there's no way that it is this person that they are saying it is. But for the beeps and giggles, the kicks and giggles, we'll say, for the kicks and giggles, I respond back being like, there's no way that this is actually such and such. Prove that it's you. Well, this person sends back a video of themselves talking to me, saying my name, showing who they are. where they live and going on. And it was very much that exact rapper. And it was definitely him. And he was messaging me all the time, trying to get me to come out to LA and fly me to different shows that he had and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not about this whatsoever. I really, like, that kind of stuff is just not a thing for me. And I'm really only telling this story because I want to explain that even people like that who have this high status or are well off in the world, or you think are these big celebrities and have all of this in and try to get women and all of this stuff, was sending me all the time inappropriate pictures I never asked for or that I want. And it's gotten to the point finally, this has been going on with this rapper for like 4 years. He doesn't get the freaking hint. I never talk to him. I never respond to anything he says, and I blocked him multiple times, and then he creates new accounts again to keep talking to me. And it is actually the rapper, for the record, too. He is FaceTime. My friends and I will say every now and then, if we've had one too many drinks, if one of his songs comes on at the bar, we may take a video and we may text it to him every now and then because it's funny. And he will try to FaceTime me all the time. So it is legitimately him, whatever. He tries to get me to come out of places. But even people like that, of that level, still feel the need to be inappropriate and send stuff that I do not want, women do not want. I've given him zero indication that I'm interested in any of that. But it just goes to show anybody can be weird. Just remember that. Any man can be a creep. So now you guys know what it's like to be a woman in the space. Obviously from kind of an extreme spectrum, I showed you guys male coworkers within the space of things that could happen, stuff that happens online, and stuff that had happened to me personally from working in the TV space as well. So it's fun for you guys to kind of get a glimpse into things like that happen that I feel like are very normal for media or social media personalities that people just don't really think about, I guess, on an everyday basis that people go through. I can't even imagine what it's like to be somebody who's actually famous or actually be a celebrity, because I don't even want to know the kind of stuff they go through, because I've been through some weird crap. And nobody knows me. So it's gotta be crazy to have that kind of level of things happen to you. To close out this episode, I hope you guys feel like you got to understand a little bit of what it's like to be a woman within the sports media space and get an inside look of some of the crazy things we deal with on a day-to-day basis for you guys to have a better understanding. But to close out the episode, of course, we are gonna go with my Taylor's topics for the week. Our first Taylor's topic that I have is going to be sundresses. Well, y'all, if you've been following me on social media, my sundresses have been going off lately, and you guys are obsessed with them. I actually recently found out that men have this debate going on TikTok that sundresses are attractive on women no matter what. And I don't know why you guys think this or what the reasoning is. I don't really know. It's not like explained, but apparently men are like super into women in sundresses. I love a good sundress. I've actually always just loved a good dress, period. I'm a big dress girl. And I love a good sundress, though, because it's the easiest outfit ever, especially when you live out in 1,000,000-degree weather in Arizona. A sundress is easy. You put it on, the outfit's complete, it looks cute, and you're done for the day. But you guys have been loving the sundresses. I love the sundresses. They're very in for me for the week because it's starting to get blazing hot here in Arizona, and you need the sundresses. With that, lizards are in this week, and I need to explain because Sophie and I were in the car this morning after our sculpt class, and we got to talking about this, and I kind of really started to think about how weird this is. And unless you're from Arizona, or live in Arizona, you probably don't understand how much of an everyday occurrence this is for us, but for other people, you guys would probably think that's crazy, and that's why I'm going to lizards as being in. In Arizona, you can walk outside on a day-to-day basis. I walk to my car, and it's not weird if I'm going to see a snake, a lizard, a coyote, a javelina, a scorpion. Living in the desert, if you're living in Arizona, you are living in the desert, and wildlife like that is just a norm that you're going to see on a day-to-day basis. Walking out to your car, taking my dog out on a walk. Oh, like a lizard runs by, I don't think literally anything of it. Oh, I see a scorpion. I'm like, oh, there's a scorpion. Oh, there's a coyote in my parking lot out front when I'm pulling in my car. Big deal. Oh, there's just a pack of javelinas walking along the sidewalk, and who cares? It's just very normal. And I started thinking about where I grew up in the Midwest, like people are seeing squirrels Well, we're out here seeing freaking rattlesnakes, and we think nothing of it living in the desert. It's just like everyday life for us to see that kind of wildlife and not bat an eyelash. So lizards are very in, wildlife out in the desert is very in, and I feel like unless you live out in the desert, I sometimes forget that Arizona ultimately is the desert. It gets 120 plus out here in the summers, and we live with it like it's nothing. It is what it is. We're very used to it. And with that comes a lot of interesting creatures that a lot of people throughout the rest of the country don't experience on a day-to-day basis. Third, birthday brunches. And that's a shout out just for Sherry, because anytime that we have like a birthday, it's a good reason for us girls to celebrate. And I love having a good girls' day. And this weekend brought that. So I love a good birthday brunch. Kala was delicious. Oh my God, such good food and great drinks and just a great time with my friends. So birthday brunches are very in Taylor's topics. Number 4 is going to be macros. I'm really trying to be better about my eating habits, and I started this week counting my macros again. If people don't know what that is, that's calculating your protein, carb, and fat intake for the week. I'm trying to be better about that because lately I feel like I've been craving sugar all the time, which is so not like me because I'm not really a sugar or sweets person, but I want to get back on track with that. I'm always so good about working out, but my eating habits have been really bad. So this week, I'm trying to get back on track, counting the macros. It's been a little rough, been a little tough, but I've been doing it. Yesterday, I did have a cheat meal. I had some Whataburger when I went out, but I used this app and I'm really liking it. So if you want to start counting your macros, it's called Chronometer, and you can literally scan the barcodes or put in your own food yourself to track everything and see where you're at for the day. And then you can add in your exercise as well and link up like your iPhone to it, so it calculates like my workouts in there too. So Chronometer, good one to use if you want to start counting your macros. And lastly on the list of Taylor's topics for the week is going to be the song Riding Solo by Jason Derulo. That song just brings me back to high school, and if you know, you know. Shout out to my sister and Olivia for that story. They played it in Sculpt this morning at Sunday Morning Sculpt, and our instructor was so into it, and I forgot, I know all the words to that song too, and I was just going, and it just brought me back to nostalgia of being in high school and how much I love the song Riding Solo by Jason Derulo. So that wraps up the Taylor's topics for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 7 of First Base. If you are new here, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Give me some feedback. I always want to hear from you guys, whether that's in the comments or through my social media. You are more than welcome to reach out, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming to First Base.